Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to talk to you what happens in your body when you consume psyllium for 30 days. All the effects it has on weight loss, satiety, the intestines, blood sugar, cholesterol. You're going to love this video. I know that some people say it's hard to find psyllium, that psyllium is expensive, but remember that you can always buy it online and the amount you use each day is usually very small, so it lasts a long time. I'll share all these tips, so stay until the end. You won't want to miss it. Before we start, I want to ask you if you have the habit of consuming psyllium in your daily routine, or if you regularly consume any other type of fiber. I would love to see your comment, so go ahead and like the video, because that's your way of helping me out. And if you know someone who's curious or wants to better understand how psyllium works, if you want to encourage that person to learn more about psyllium, share this video. Let's work together to spread this chain of kindness. Let's talk more about this interesting food. Why is it talked about so much these days? Some people even call psyllium the natural Ozempic, the natural Mounjaro. Why is it so trendy? Why is everyone talking about it so much? Psyllium is a soluble natural fiber found in the husk of a plant called Plantago ovata. One of the most interesting characteristics of this fiber is its ability to attract and absorb many times its own weight in water. So it forms a gel, it gelatinizes, it creates a mucilage, and this can have very broad and different effects on various things in our body. Let's start by talking about the benefits of regularly consuming psyllium. Right in the first few days after you start consuming psyllium, you'll begin to notice more physical changes, so to speak. That's because many people quickly experience a feeling of a fuller stomach, a slight reduction in appetite, and initial changes in their intestinal transit. That's why so many people nowadays talk more about this connection with psyllium, with Ozempic, Mounjaro. There's even a video about it here on the channel, speaking of foods that can help stimulate GLP-1, in a way similar to these medications. I'll leave this video here. One of them is psyllium, but there are others that can help you as well. In fact, this can happen. And we know that psyllium already works a lot to help control weight and the feeling of hunger, because of that gel I mentioned to you that it forms. So since this gel takes up a lot of space in your stomach, it sends an early satiety signal to your brain. After that, it also gradually releases food from the stomach, from the intestine, into the bloodstream, which is what helps keep you feeling full for longer. So many people report that when they start consuming psyllium, they eat less of that main meal and would have eaten something afterward. Another interesting point is that if a person suffers from constipation, they may start to notice their stools becoming more hydrated and easier to eliminate. But it's also worth mentioning that these first few days are a delicate period, when mistakes often happen, because some people want the benefits of psyllium and start taking very large amounts several times a day without realizing that it should be introduced gradually and always with plenty of hydration. Because if someone starts with too high a dose or without enough water, it can happen exactly the opposite of what we want for the intestines, such as bloating, gas, distension, cramps, and even constipation. Because just imagine, it's a fiber that absorbs water. If you put it in your stomach or your intestines and there's no water for it to hydrate, it will start to dry out your stool, which is the opposite of what you want. So always remember to mix psyllium well with water. I'll tell you more about the amounts, and drink plenty of water throughout the day to keep this gel well hydrated and working the way it should. So after about 4 to 7 days that you have been consuming psyllium correctly, as I mentioned, your intestines tend to respond better, more regularly. It actually starts to work as an intestinal regulator. It has a very interesting aspect because psyllium doesn't just help those who are constipated. It also helps people who have very loose stools, those with softer or more liquid stools, because it absorbs water and improves the consistency of the stool. So it really is a fiber that regulates the intestines, not an aggressive laxative. That's why, during this phase, many people report more regular bowel movements, less straining during bowel movements, less bloating, and a more predictable digestive rhythm. We even start to have a more fixed time to go to the bathroom, and there are people who say to me, Patricia, is this how it's going to work now? Will I be able to go to the bathroom every day? There are people who have a lot of constipation and they've suffered with it for a long time, so it really helps. But it's worth emphasizing that it's not the same for everyone, especially if the person has any pre-existing health condition. If you have any intestinal problems like irritable bowel syndrome or any inflammatory bowel disease, it's really important to always talk first with the nutritionist who sees you in person to check how much, if, at what time, or even if it's not recommended. In the first week, as I mentioned before, you'll already start to notice a lot of this satiating effect from the psyllium, especially when you consume it with water. As I said earlier, it expands in your stomach, gives you that feeling of fullness beforehand, and you tend to eat less. This is very good for the weight loss process because the biggest problem people have isn't necessarily not knowing what to eat, but being able to control the amount without suffering, without feeling hungry. And psyllium helps precisely with that, but pay attention, it's not that it suppresses hunger like medication does, It helps with that physiological phase of hunger with satiety. But ideally, you should already have your diet organized so you know what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, and not fall into the temptation of foods that are low in volume but very high in calories. Because in that case, it might not help as much since you'll be eating very little. So having this common sense is always fundamental. Another very important benefit that people notice right at the beginning of using psyllium is its positive effect on blood glucose, because this gel formed by psyllium causes the release of glucose and everything else from the stomach contents, the whole mixture, to be slower, as I mentioned to you. So, since the food will pass more slowly from the stomach to the intestine and from the intestine into the bloodstream, there will also be a slower, more gradual infusion of glucose, less fluctuation, less drowsiness after meals, less drop in energy, less early hunger. And it can also help a lot with blood sugar control. So this obviously has a direct impact on eating behavior. Because those glucose spikes could increase hunger afterwards, you quickly get that urge to snack. So it's important to mention that psyllium can help you a lot as a complement to reduce those spikes, but it won't replace treatment and it won't give you a free pass to eat whatever you want just because there's fiber in it. Some people think like this, that's great. So now I'm going to put psyllium in this ice cream, in this lasagna, and eat it. That's not how it works. It doesn't perform miracles. So remember that you have to help psyllium help you too, in order to get good results in controlling your blood sugar. By the way, speaking of blood sugar and weight loss, I want to invite you to check out my playlists. I have many videos with tips and lots of recipes, low carb, low calorie. Everyone is loving them, and I'll leave them down below in the description for you. Another benefit that comes with time as people consume psyllium, usually within those 30 days, you already start seeing really good results in improving the gut microbiota. Since psyllium is a soluble fiber, it serves as a substrate for the beneficial bacteria in your gut. So it can help improve the intestinal environment. And of course, this helps with digestion, inflammation, metabolism, and improving gut health. It benefits our whole body, and psyllium can play a very interesting role in this. Another benefit of regular psyllium consumption, taken daily for at least a month, is an improvement in cholesterol, especially LDL. This is because the fibers in psyllium bind to bile acids, increase fecal excretion, and force the liver to use cholesterol to ultimately improve this whole environment. And this can contribute to controlling the lipid profile over time. If you are someone who has high cholesterol, especially high LDL, psyllium helps a lot. So, if you're interested in getting psyllium but don't know how much to take, this is very important because we shouldn't overdo it. That goes for psyllium as well. Ideally, you should take 1 teaspoon of psyllium at a time. Some people can take up to 2 teaspoons per day at different times, but usually the most recommended amount is 1 teaspoon per day. And that teaspoon should always be diluted in at least a full cup of water. Never put psyllium directly in your mouth. Dilute it in a large glass of water or another non-caloric liquid of your choice, like tea or anything else you prefer, and then drink it. And if you want these benefits for satiety, controlling blood sugar spikes, the ideal is to take it a little before lunch or dinner. Before the meal, where you'll have more carbohydrates, is a good time. About 15 to 20 minutes before that meal is a good moment for you to add it to your routine. Ideally, you should also take it away from the time you take your medication, at least 1 or 2 hours apart, because it can reduce or interfere with the absorption of those medications. And that's it. Start with once a day, see how everything goes, try it for a few weeks. If everything is fine, then you can choose to increase to another dose or not. If you have any questions or want to personalize this, remember to talk to your healthcare professional in your city. This video is for informational purposes only. So tell me, did you know about all these beneficial effects of psyllium? Are you going to start taking it? I'd love to see your comment. Remember to like this video. That's super important to me, and share it with those who might like or need it. Let's grow this chain of kindness. That's what I want with the channel. See you next time. Bye.